Breaking news! Things are heating up behind the scenes for the Buffalo Bills. Before you go any further, be sure to hit the like button if you believe the Bills have the potential to make it to the next Super Bowl. Seriously, I do. If you do too, write something like this: Go Bills! I believe! Let's see who's with me. Now put on your Bills helmet, shoulder pads, and jersey and let's get to it. Something big is happening in the NFL, and it directly affects the Buffalo Bills. The entire cornerback market has just been flipped on its head, and that could mean a major contract extension for one of our own, Christian Benford. The Texans just handed Derek Stingley Jr. a jaw-dropping 3-year, $90 million extension, with an almost unheard of $89 million guaranteed. That's not just a payday, it's a message to the rest of the league. And if you've been watching what's happening, you know exactly what that means for the Bills. This kind of reset usually happens at quarterback, right? Every year, we see the numbers climb. One guy gets $50 million a year, then another jumps to $55 million, and before you know it, Dak Prescott is at $60 million. But now, it's not just quarterbacks breaking records. Defensive players are getting their share too. Myles Garrett just signed a $40 million per year extension, receivers are cashing in, and now, cornerbacks are right in the middle of the action. Let's talk numbers because this is where it gets real. Stingley, after a breakout 2024 season, locked in that massive deal because of his production, 47% completion rate allowed, 18 pass deflections, 5 interceptions, and a ridiculous 51.0 passer rating when targeted. That's elite. But what about Christian Benford? Well, Bills fans, the stats say he's right there. Benford finished last season ranked 6th among all cornerbacks according to PFF. And while we know PFF isn't gospel, it's a solid metric for comparison. He had 64 tackles, 10 pass defenses, and while his interception numbers weren't eye-popping, that's actually a sign of respect. Quarterbacks are actively avoiding throwing his way. The reality is, when you become that dominant, teams stop testing you. He's proving to be one of the most reliable defensive backs in the NFL. So let's talk contracts, because if Stingley just reset the market, Benford is looking at a major payday. Based on where he ranks, we're talking about a deal that could put him right in that top 5 range for cornerbacks. And it makes sense. Brandon Beane has already hinted at ongoing conversations about keeping Benford in Buffalo. The Bills believe in developing and retaining their own talent, and Benford fits that mold perfectly. Now, here's the big question. What's the number? If Stingley is getting $30 million per year, does Benford push for something similar? Maybe slightly less? Or does the Bills front office try to get ahead of the market before it jumps even higher? The fact is, waiting could cost Buffalo even more. We've seen this happen before in the league. Teams hesitate, the market explodes again, and suddenly, a $25 million deal looks like a bargain. But what do you think? Bills Mafia? Should the team lock Benford in now before the price goes up? Or should they wait and see how things play out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. And here's where it gets really interesting. What happens if the Bills don't extend Benford soon? This is the kind of decision that can have ripple effects for years. If they wait too long, and the market continues to skyrocket, they could find themselves in a situation where they're either overpaying later or, worst case scenario, losing a top-tier corner to another team willing to throw money at him. We've seen it before. Teams hesitate, thinking they'll get a discount by waiting, and suddenly, another franchise swoops in with an offer too good to refuse. Think about it. Benford is already ranked among the best corners in the league. He's got the physicality, the instincts, and the consistency. He's missed just 3 tackles in the last 2 seasons combined. That's the kind of dependability you don't let walk out the door. And considering the way Stingley's deal just shook up the entire market, the Bills front office has to be feeling the pressure to get something done sooner rather than later. So, what's the actual number the Bills should be looking at? If we're comparing to Stingley, who just got $30 million a year, Benford likely falls slightly below that range, maybe somewhere in the $22 to $26 million per year range. But here's the issue. If they don't extend him now, and another elite corner resets the market again next offseason, that number could climb closer to $28 to $30 million before you know it. That's how these things work. It's all about timing. And this isn't just about one player, it's about Buffalo's entire defensive identity. The Bills have built their success on a strong secondary, and letting Benford slip away would be a major hit to the team's ability to lock down opposing receivers. Tre'Davious White's departure already left a gap, and while Kyer Elam is still developing, you need that one rock-solid guy to build around. Benford is that guy. But here's where things get really tricky. The Bills are already in a bit of a cap squeeze. They've got to think about the future of their roster and where they want to allocate resources. Josh Allen's contract is massive. Stefon Diggs, if he stays long-term, commands big money. And then you've got guys like Dalton Kincaid and James Cook, who will eventually need new deals as well. Every dollar spent on Benford is a dollar that isn't going somewhere else. So what's the move? If you're Brandon Beane, do you push all in on locking Benford up right now, ensuring the Bills have an elite corner locked in for the future? Or do you risk waiting, hoping his price doesn't skyrocket even more? Bills Mafia, this is one of those moments that could define the team's future. We've seen what happens when a team invests in its top-tier defensive talent, and we've seen what happens when they hesitate and lose them to free agency. So I'll leave it up to you. What should the Bills do? Sign Benford now before the market gets even crazier, or gamble and see how things play out? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your take on this one. And here's the wildest part. What if Christian Benford knows his value is still rising? What if his camp is looking at this Stingley deal and thinking, why sign now when I can cash in even bigger next year? Because let's be real, if Benford keeps trending the way he is, he could go from a top 7 cornerback to a top 3 guy. And if that happens, the price tag only goes up. This is the tricky dance between players and front offices. The Bills want to secure a deal before the market gets even more insane. But Benford, he might see waiting as the best move. If he gambles and has another elite season, more pass deflections, more shutdown performances, maybe a few more picks, his price could climb into the $28 to $30 million per year range easily. And at that point, does Buffalo even have the cap space to match it? This is where the franchise-defining decisions come in. If Brandon Beane and the Bills believe Benford is the guy, they have to make a move now. Get ahead of the market before it swallows them whole. Because the longer they wait, the less leverage they'll have. Look at what's happening across the league. Teams are starting to realize that waiting on elite players always costs them more in the long run. And here's another angle. What if another team starts sniffing around? Because let's not pretend the rest of the league isn't watching this closely. If Benford hits free agency, teams with deep pockets, think the Raiders, the Bears, maybe even the Lions, are going to throw massive money at him. And if the Bills let him walk, they're suddenly scrambling to replace a top-tier cornerback in a league where shutdown guys are getting harder to find. So what's the solution? The Bills need to find a way to lock him up with a deal that makes sense for both sides. Maybe it's a 4-year contract with guarantees that secure Benford's future while keeping some cap flexibility for Buffalo. Or maybe they structure it so that in 2 years, there's a renegotiation clause, giving Benford the chance to get another payday if the market explodes even further. Bottom line, this is one of the biggest contract decisions the Bills will face this offseason. Get it right, and they have a lockdown corner for years. Hesitate, and they could be watching Benford walk for nothing. So I'll ask you again, Bills Mafia, what's the move here? Do you think the Bills should lock him in right now before the market gets even crazier? Or do you think waiting is the smarter play? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is one debate we need to have. End of the day, this isn't just about numbers on a contract. It's about what he wants for his future. Does he see himself as a long-term cornerstone of this Bills defense? Or is he willing to test the open market and see just how high his value can climb? We've seen players take slightly less to